Hello everyone, my name is Kate K and today I'll be presenting about the emergency response for the catchment flooding on the Badu Island. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the Gadigal and Bitigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional owners of the land. I pay homage to the elders, both past and emerging. I would also like to acknowledge the Padulgal and Mualgal people as the traditional custodians of the Badu Island, along with the other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities that were built on this land. I have divided the study in three categories: deep diving, sense making, and designing a solution. These are some things that we already know. Badu Island is prone to flooding, particularly during the monsoon season, and these are attributed by seasonal rain, storm surges, and the rising sea levels. These events can lead to significant impacts on the local communities, the local infrastructure, impacting the whole ecosystem. To know more about the causes of the flooding, I did a preliminary investigation of the site, which I'll be discussing in this category. Herein, I studied the existing facilities on the island and deciphered that it is not sufficient to accommodate 704 people in the times of calamity. There are no signs of professional temporary shelters on the island which could support the people during the calamity. And since it's an island, uh, relocating the people to a different location wouldn't be a very realistic approach. The Badu Island experiences extreme seasonal variation in the monthly rainfall. Rain falls throughout the year in Badu. The month with the most rainfall in Badu is June, with an average rainfall of 210 millimeters. The month with the least rain is in December, with an average rainfall of 36 millimeters. In order to design an emergency response, it's important to know some of the prerequisites that go, which are the theories, methodologies, and the frameworks. I aligned myself with some of the theories of co-design. In order to find a solution, I brainstormed some of the methodologies that could be adopted. I chose to work closely with the co-design framework as part of my further research. Co-design is a participatory approach adopted by involving the community members in the design process. They have the first-hand insights and they create conditions for genuine participation. On the basis of the co-design framework, I have decided to design a model of my own, discover alternate materials, design a shelter form, deliver innovation, evaluate all the demerits, and plan an evacuation to co-produce well-being. Designing a resilience model to initially help smoothen out the flow of events after the calamity has occurred. The aim is to create a successful shelter for those affected by the calamity so that they feel rooted in place. They should be able to feel a sense of belonging and should be comforted. The main objective is an attempt to design a temporary shelter for all age groups, which not only enhances a sense of community but also encompasses a gradual change into the life before going back to normalcy. Every design needs a direction, and here is some of the design strategies, material thinking, and color psychology that I adopted in my design. Every individual affected by trauma goes through the stages of grief, which are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. It is important that we have some prerequisites in place to strategize. An individual goes through a denial stage all onto the acceptance stage. Before this, there should be certain prerequisites in place. Preventive measures, having survival supplies, a shelter response, systems in place that distribute news efficiently, and a wayfinding. These would be the guiding signals until after the calamity has occurred. There should be a flood awareness system in place for the comfort and moral support, which leads to spirituality, and some things that are pertaining to the psychological needs or the counseling up until the acceptance stage. I did some research on materials that are water retardant and found a canvas that is water retardant and aluminium, which could be the best fits for my design. Red, orange, and yellow are the ideal choices for a temporary shelter, as these colors evoke positive emotions, providing a warmth and optimism for the individuals affected by the calamity. When a calamity occurs, an immediate relief should be a system that is set. Usually, the immediate shelter or the emergency shelter is any safe and dry location in one of the pre existing buildings, and later they move to mass public shelters or tents. At this stage, I'm wanting to propose one solution for this problem, which is an immediate temporary shelter, which could be a combination of these two and could be a much more stable arrangement for the people who are affected. Let's discuss a probable location. Looking at the topography, I found flat land between two hillocks, which range above 59 meters above the sea level. This location lies to the south on the hillock of Mount Abai, which is to the south of the settlement and which is on an higher altitude than the settlement. I did an elevation mapping to understand what the land really looks like using Google Earth. In order to design for the indigenous community, it is important that we take note of how the original indigenous construction methods were like. Indigenous Australian vernacular architecture reflects a deep understanding of local environmental conditions and natural resources, with the structures such as gunyah and woodleys being adapted to various climates and landscapes. These designs often incorporate sustainable materials and techniques, demonstrating a very harmonious relationship between the people and the environment. Conceptualizing an idea for my temporary shelter. Boomerangs are an internationally recognized symbol for Australians. For Torres Strait Islander and Aboriginal people, it is a symbol of cultural endurance and a tangible link for their long presence on this island. I like to utilize the concept of a boomerang, which is a tool used by the indigenous people. As we all know, the idea behind a boomerang is it when it's thrown, it comes back. Also, it is a popular symbol for tourism and travel, with notions of visitors returning like a boomerang. So I like to use the same and communicate that the community that I'm designing for will come back as a community. Coming to the final part of my project, this is the design proposal. It's a temporary emergency shelter with a guiding manual. I'll talk about the iterations, the prototypes, and the design renditions that I made during the due course. I wanted to design something that springs open without much effort and can be assembled in no time. This is my first iteration, and it is a collapsible structure that comes together in no time. However, it lacks durability. Hence, this is my second iteration. However, this comes with two shelves and it sort of houses the collapsible structure. I worked on the 2D representations and the cluster planning for these. And this is the final output. Then I designed a guiding manual with a step-by-step procedure on how to assemble the structure. And this is the final rendition. This is the physical model that I created. And thank you for your time.